Cybermaterial presents Cyber Hygiene Live, a dynamic and interactive event that brings together top cybersecurity experts to provide you with actionable insights and strategies to safeguard your digital life. Today's theme is Safeguarding Seniors Online. Our event is packed with engaging and informative segments. We'll kick off with an insightful cyber review with Brenda Johnson about her book, Being Less Hackable, for seniors and non-techies. Following that, an exciting keynote presentation full of practical solutions for common cyber threats. Each segment will be followed by a Q&A session where you'll get the opportunity to ask insightful questions to the presenters. Without further ado, let's get started with a short video, Decoding Cyber Threats for Seniors.
Senior citizens are using technology more than ever before. Smart devices help them stay connected with their loved ones and get essential goods and services from the comfort of their homes. Seniors are among the prime targets for cybercrimes. Because of their vulnerability and their savings, older people are swindled out of more than $3 billion each year. In 2017, a 79-year-old woman named Judy was caught in an elaborate scam that cost her close to $200,000. She was the victim of a tech support scam. Tech support scams occur when scammers want you to believe you have a serious problem with your computer and want you to pay for tech support services you don't need or to fix a problem that doesn't exist. In 2021, total reported losses to romance scams hit a high of $547 million. Romance scam is when a criminal adopts a fake online identity to gain a victim's affection and trust. A 79-year-old man fell victim to a romance scam and was conned out of over $700,000 over 2 years. Online shopping scam is another widely reported type of fraud. It occurs when scammers pretend to be legitimate online sellers, either with a fake website or a fake ad on a genuine retailer site. In 2021, people over 60 reportedly lost at least $52 million from online shopping scams according to AARP. Other common types of scams are imposter scam. Scammers pretend to be someone you trust to convince you to send them money. Sweepstakes scam. Scammers contact you via mail, internet, and the phone with promises of a prize such as a car, a vacation, or a large sum of money and require you to pay fees to claim your prize. Timeshare sale and resale scams. Investment scams and health insurance scams are also prevalent among the elderly. The scams can take place over the phone, online, or in person. Seniors should avoid giving out personal or financial information to strangers. They should ask questions and seek help when in doubt.
Welcome everybody to Cyber Hygiene Live. I'm Sophia, your host for today's event on Safeguarding Seniors Online. It's a pleasure to have every one of you joining us for this event. Today, we've gathered experts and valuable insights to guide us through the complexities of online safety for seniors. So get ready to an informative and engaging session as we explore essential tips, tools, and strategies to navigate the digital landscape responsibly. So let's get started. So for our next segment, we're talking with Brenda Johnson. She's the author of the book, Being Less Hackable for Seniors and Non-Techies. So after this insightful cyber review, you will have the opportunity to ask questions to her directly. Visit slido.com and enter Cybermaterial to ask her questions. So let's watch a quick video about her book.
Welcome to Cyber Review. Today we are introducing Brenda Johnson, cloud and cybersecurity expert. She is the author of the book, Being Less Hackable for Seniors and Non-Techies. This short and simple book details rules of thumb for staying safe from the most common computer, email, and mobile phone attacks, as well as how to recognize typical phone scams. Let us welcome Brenda Johnson and Sophia for this insightful cyber review.
Hi, Brenda. Welcome to Cyber Review. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm really excited to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. So, talk us about your book. What can you tell us about your journey in cybersecurity and what inspired to write this wonderful book?
Okay, well, I was an advanced services seller for Cisco Systems. I had to cover all of the different technologies, and I was covering them for public sector. I started to see that security was top of mind above anything else for my customers, and they were terrified of ransomware attacks, terrified of finding themselves on CNN. So I really started digging into security, and that's when I made the move from Cisco Systems to Carbon Black. And at the same time, my husband, who's older than I am, not by a whole lot, but he's older than I am, he was constantly getting hacked. And he'd bring his computer to me and it would be whirring and buzzing and saying, "You have to call tech support and pay this amount of money." And I would just fix it and hand it back to him because usually it happened when I was really busy. But then I started saying, hey, this is happening way too much. Let me dig into this. I started looking at his browser and looking at his behaviors. And I found some common behaviors that he was doing because I never get hacked, right? And I started talking to some of my friends that are older and asking them questions about what was happening with them. And I found that some of them had actually paid the tech support scam. And I just started taking data and asking questions of people, researching online. I put together the book, I taped it to his seat, and he hasn't been hacked since.
That's great. So it looks like your book is a great resource for the seniors and the non-techies. So what are the specifics that you cover in your book that is very good for these people that they are not well into tech?
Okay, well, first of all, I talk about basic browsing behaviors, what to do and not to do. If you're a good speller, then you can enter a site into the search bar and find it. But if you misspell it, you run the risk of coming up with sites that are not legitimate. Password management, really important to use different passwords and not easily recognizable passwords. A lot of seniors want to make it easy, so they use the same password, and it's something simple like their name or their date of birth that's easily guessable. I talk about social media behaviors. You showed in the video earlier that the romance scam is big. The way that starts is if you friend people that you don't know and you start to develop a relationship with them. Something that's a little bit more subtle. If you play those games on Facebook where you answer all these questions, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite song? If you use any of that in your passwords, that's how these thieves go out and find your password. Phishing and vishing scams. Don't answer emails. Don't download attachments if you don't know who they came from. If you have a mobile phone and you get a lot of robocalls, those are getting more and more sophisticated with the use of artificial intelligence. So really important to get something like Nomo Robo. If you have a Ring camera, if you have a Nest thermostat, get a firewall because people can hack into that. And in some of the larger hacks in big enterprises, these have come through the HVAC system, the HVAC system. So really important to do that. Really important to watch your credit cards, watch your ATM card. Don't let anybody stand too close to you. Make sure you have an RFID protective sleeve. I go through all of these things and then some of the common scams that you highlighted in the video earlier as well.
That sounds great. So be careful for those men in the shoulders when you're on the ATM, put in your PIN. And what are some specific examples of risky social media behaviors that they should avoid?
If somebody clones your profile, you may think, oh, this happens all the time. Report it, stop it, because that person can start reaching out to your friends and asking them for money. And some of those friends might think that that's really you.
Yeah, it's you.
Yeah. So that's one thing. Another is just really be careful of the romance scams.
Yeah, those are very common, especially for people that they claim that they are overseas, maybe a soldier or someone in the military, and they get scammed because they need like money and they need help and support. So that's great. And when you talk about like, what do you hope readers will take away from your book? What are the crucial lessons that they should take care?
When we're older, we tend to go into a comfort zone. We like to have the same computer. We like to have the same passwords. We like to keep things simple and easy. And you really can't do that with computers. You need to make sure that if your browser can no longer take an update, that's time to get a new computer or a new mobile phone, because all of the security updates and upgrades are in the newer browsers. So that's one. And it's not your old car. You can't just go to the junkyard and get a part for it, right? The other thing is just be vigilant. If something looks fishy, it probably is. Don't blindly click on things. The whole idea of mindfulness applies here. Be very, very mindful. And if somebody calls you and claims that they're in trouble, artificial intelligence right now can really fake somebody's voice and even their image. So put the phone down, call that person elsewhere, find out if that's really them. There's a new scam where they're claiming that this person is in trouble, they're going to go to jail. A lot of older people have been built out of thousands and thousands in this scam. It's called the grandparent scam. And I detail that in the book as well.
That sounds great. So let's talk about the future. How do you envision the future of cybersecurity and personal data protection? And what steps do you believe seniors or non-techies should take to adapt to the evolving cyber threats?
I see AI playing a very large part on both sides of the equation. The bad guys have AI and the good guys have AI. So it's very, very important to keep all of your software up to date. And that includes, obviously, your antivirus, your malware protection. If you have a VPN, and I recommend a VPN in the book, keep your VPN up to date. Keep your equipment up to date. Keep all of the browsers up to date. So that's number one, because these companies are really researching what the bad guys can do with artificial intelligence, and they're trying to stay ahead of that curve. I will update this book so that as new scams hit, I add them and I will talk about what the bad guys are doing with artificial intelligence. But artificial intelligence has the ability to hammer at something over and over again much more quickly than a human hacker can do. So that means that there is a lot of potential for new and very nefarious threats to be happening in the future.
Okay, so we look forward to this new update because this is going to be a never-ending book with the
Yes,
new
it is.
scams
Yes,
coming
it is.
up. Okay, so that's great. So tell us where the readers can get your book and how they can connect with you.
Okay, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see my LinkedIn profile. Feel free to reach out to me, ask me any questions you'd like. Also, I have my email address there, so feel free to reach out to me there. The book is on Amazon, so you can find it just by entering the title into Amazon. And there you go. There's a link that came up. Definitely happy to answer any questions anybody has once you get the book. I kept it as simple as possible because I wanted to make sure I envisioned my father reading it. I wanted to make sure that my father wouldn't get bored with it and put it down.
That sounds good. And I mean, it's wonderful that you keep it simple because it's for non-techies. And whenever you
Mhm.
talk about cyber, everybody gets like freaked out and like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to go through it, right? So that's good. And you talk about your new book. You want to give us a glimpse or what is it about and when is it coming out?
Sure. When I was growing up, and I grew up probably a long time ago compared to most of you, girls were discouraged from doing math. We were told, oh, our brains aren't wired the same way as boys. And I'm finding a resurgence of that type of antiquated thinking that's coming about. And I really want to nip that in the bud. I want girls to know that scientific research says that girls' brains and boys' brains are not different. So I'm writing this for really a girl from the ages of about 7 to 12 years old who's having a dialogue with her mom. She's having a hard time with math. She's really struggling, but her mom helps her through it because her mom went through the same thing and understands that math is very important in every phase of life. So I'm entitling it right now, and this could change because it's not published yet. Yes, Virginia, girls can do math.
That's great. I very much looking forward to reading that book very soon and get all the girls out there to know that they are capable of whatever they want to do. And I'm looking forward to reading it soon. So now we're going to be taking questions from the audience. Let's see if there's some of the questions that pop out. Any question for Brenda? I'm going to check it out. Let's see. We have some. Okay. Okay, so here is one question. This one is a very good one. How do you see the role for of individuals in combating cyber threats?
Really just staying vigilant, staying on top of everything, not just expecting the companies whose products you use to protect you. They're doing the best they can, but you have to do your part by being mindful and vigilant and staying up to date. Also, looking at what's happening in the world of cybersecurity and hacks, perhaps subscribing to a newsletter such as Cyber Material.
That's great. And also, we do have another question from Arup here. He says, my question is that seniors are nowadays scammed by saying that I'm providing an iPhone or a MacBook at $100, but the catch is you need to pay up front and it's just shipping, like a shipping fee. So what do you tell these seniors what they can do about this type of scam?
Number one, if it looks too good to be true, it is. So always question. Take a look at it, hover your cursor over the actual URL, see if it looks like a legitimate company. Try to only do business with legitimate companies. And if you see something like that come up, AARP has a place where you can report scams. And I have that link in my book as well.
That is wonderful. We do have another question. I'm checking another here. In your experience, what are the most effective strategies for educated seniors about online safety?
That's a good one because a lot of seniors, they think they know more than they know. So it's really important when they get hit to get them resources that are simple and easy to consume. It's important to encourage them to find somebody, maybe a relative or a friend or a neighbor that they can go to if they have need for help with their computers or their mobile phones. And it's also very, very important to get them to understand an analogy. You know, a computer has an expiration date. You have food in the pantry that has an expiration date. If you eat that food, you're going to get sick. If you keep that computer, you're going to get sick in a different way.
That's great advice. I love it. And we do have another one, and this one is a little bit more specific. Maybe you can help us. Are there any current or upcoming policies or legislation that aim to better protect seniors online? That any
Not
resource that they can get?
not that I'm aware of, but I do know that the FTC, and I've got a link in my book to the FTC that's working on combating this.
Mhm.
Um, I also know the AARP is very, very active in helping their members combat fraud and issues. But that's a good question. And I will definitely look a little bit more into that because there should be legislation
Yes,
regarding
yes. I
this.
know at the FTC you can report fraud and things like that, but people are maybe a little bit skeptical because they may not want to
Mhm.
interact with law enforcement, you know? So,
Right.
so maybe we can get the government to work on something less maybe strict in the sense of working with law enforcement, but maybe with an agency that can guide them through this hard time because it's very hard when they get scammed, right? When they find out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. People have lost their entire life savings.
Yes, that's terrible. Okay, we do have another one, and maybe we can wrap up about this one. Um, how can we balance usability and security in our digital systems to ensure efficiency and protection against cyber threats?
Well, there's no way around the fact that being protected means you're going to have a loss of some efficiency. I mentioned the use of a password manager, and that can make having multiple really hard to remember passwords easier to handle. And there are things like LastPass, One Password. There's probably about 10 or 15 different password manager companies. You really have to look at the stats for next generation antiviruses and malware protection solutions. Find the ones that don't slow down your operating system too much, because sometimes it can slow it down to a halt. Now, that was more of a problem, say, 10 years ago than it is now. But really, you're going to have to sacrifice a little bit of usability in order to be safe. You know, I can't sugarcoat that.
That's the equilibrium that every cyber professional is trying to find between like convenience and like security.
Yeah.
It's very complicated. Anyway, so thank you so much, Brenda, for this opportunity to get to know you, to get to know your book. We wish you all the best with this one and the upcoming one. Please let us know when it's ready. I would love to do another cyber review about it, especially let's get a whole girls panel for this next event. So
That'd
we
be
can talk about
wonderful.
it.
I look forward to
Yes.
that. Thank you.
Yes, that's awesome. So thank you, Brenda. Have a great rest of the day. And everybody wants to reach out to Brenda. You have her email address, you have her LinkedIn, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. And yes,
Okay.
if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me directly.
Absolutely. So thank you, Brenda. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So we just had Brenda Johnson with her wonderful book. We took some questions from the audience. Thank you for participating. And for the next segment, we're going to have Mark Raphael. But before, I wanted to invite every one of you to subscribe to our weekday newsletter, Cyber Briefing. You will get the latest cybersecurity alerts, incidents, and news every morning in your inbox through LinkedIn. So make sure to follow Cyber Material on LinkedIn and subscribe to the Cyber Briefing. So I wanted to show you a small and quick video about what Cyber Briefing is about.
Just like the President of the U.S. receives a daily briefing, executives need to be aware of the cyber threats impacting their organizations. Introducing Cyber Briefing, your essential weekday newsletter. Stay ahead of the curve with our timely updates on the latest cybersecurity alerts, incidents, and news. Subscribe now on LinkedIn, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, or have it delivered straight to your inbox. Don't let your organization be caught off guard. Stay informed. Stay secure with Cyber Briefing.
So make sure to subscribe. And for our next segment, we're going to have a very interesting one. We will have Mark Raphael. He's the CEO of 911 Cyber. And he will share with us some tips on how seniors can protect themselves and what private companies are doing to protect them, since we know that most companies, they work with small businesses or big corporations. But what are other companies helping to protect these individuals? So, but before, let's watch a video about what 911 Cyber is.
What do you do when you get hacked? With law enforcement stretched thin, pursuing bigger targets. Your service provider's customer support bouncing you around like a ping pong ball. And your IT friend avoiding your calls. You might feel stranded. Don't panic. Your ultimate cybersecurity lifeline has just landed. Introducing 911 Cyber. A league of top-notch cybersecurity first responders. Backed by cutting-edge AI. Primed to lead you step-by-step through the labyrinth of cyber threats. Engage in real-time conversations with our cyberbot for instant solutions. Get proactive and take charge now of your digital safety. Visit 911cyber.app.
So, hi, Mark. Welcome to Cyber Hygiene Live. Thank you for joining us today. How's it going?
Hi, Sophia. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you, to be able to talk a little bit about safeguarding seniors online. It's always a pleasure talking about cybersecurity and how to protect people, because at the end of the day, that's the main goal of any cybersecurity company or any professional working in the field. So it's a pleasure, and I'm really happy to be able to share some of my experience and what we're working on.
That sounds great. So, Mark, tell us about your experience working like with seniors and what you want to talk us about. If you can walk us through your keynote today, and then we can get it started with the presentation.
Perfect. So basically, we all know that cybersecurity is not going anywhere, because right now the world is being digitized. Everything we have been doing, we can do it better, or at least differently, with new technologies. And all these technologies getting embedded in our life, we have to live with them. We have to learn how to actually utilize them. And for better or worse, cybersecurity is implanted with these new technologies, as the bad guys, scammers, nation state actors, and everybody, any place around the world having access to a computer, can actually use it to do harm to people in remote places. So because of that, and we actually have to focus on every segment of the population and understand exactly how these new technologies and mostly how cyber insecurity is impacting them. And seniors are among the prime targets. So they are among the people who have been recently seeing being victim a lot, like from scammers or cyber criminals and attackers of all sorts. So we definitely find that it is a very interesting part of the population with their vulnerabilities and some of the ways of doing things, because sometimes they come from different generations, so they got like different perspective regarding technologies and how to actually to behave either online or in the digital world. So this is why we find that very, very attractive as a place to work. And my experience has been, first of all, I got like family members older, so you can actually experience that firsthand when your grandmother needs to access the telehealth platform. So they have to remember the passwords, they have to actually get access to their banking systems and a lot of different entities where they actually service them through digital platforms. And it sometimes can be a headache. So it's like everybody else. We also heard about what's happening in the news, like the amount of scams, of all the different difficulties they are having. So that actually piqued our interest, and that's why we decided, we have to do something about it. And the something we are doing about this issue is basically what Brenda is doing as well by writing this book, very instructive and insightful book, where she actually laid out not only the problem but some specific tips and solutions. Because at the end of the day, the main entity involved in a cyber attack is actually people. So somebody is doing it and somebody will be victim. Either they are taking data, money, or damaging the system. At the end of the day, somebody will be a victim. So that's why we understand that we're going to have to work with people, try to understand how the bad guys work, how the victims are reacting, and try to find solutions. So basically, it's a huge theme, and we are very passionate about it. But definitely, I'm ready right now to answer any question you may have.
Okay, that sounds great. So you do have a presentation. You want to talk to us like about in your experience where were the most threats seniors were victims of? Like you want to walk us through some of examples that you deal with some customers or some seniors?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. And we actually, throughout the conversation you're having with Brenda, I noticed that actually we wound up almost all the main and biggest threats. So they are very well known, I would say. So from identity theft to phishing, that everybody knows and can impact everybody. But more specifically for seniors, we have seen romance scams and then the government impersonation scams, because they know that this previous generation, they got like more respectful of authorities. So the criminals, they call and they impersonate a government agency, either it's the IRS or some government agency, and then they think that, or they try to use social engineering to get either money or data from these people. Now what we have seen is that the threats, they're always there. It's just like they may vary depending on the season. For example, right now it's tax season in the US, so you can imagine the amount of calls people are receiving, people impersonating the IRS. So, and for example, when it was for let's say during the pandemic, and people were using online more like telehealth, or they started using telehealth platforms just to get like, and they also receive a lot of calls, people impersonating their doctors or the hospital where they actually get care. And in general, it varies throughout the season, but it always remain almost the same. So you will find some, depending on the platform they are using, depending on the time or the location where they are. So it may vary, but in general, you will find the same imposter scams, extortion in online shopping. For example, at the end of the year when we are getting close to the holidays, so basically people are calling saying what you bought, we didn't receive the payment, or it didn't get delivered, or whatever. And
Yeah, your parcel has to be delivered.
yes, Exactly. So but in general, it's almost the same. So of course, they bring new, depending on the new technologies. So for right now, with artificial intelligence and the and new capabilities they currently have to actually create similar voice or even images. So you are using a lot of deep fakes to actually get people into the net. But in general, it's just like, so it's the same things being repeated over and over, but with different format and different shapes.
That sounds scary, but at the end of the day, we are here as cyber professionals to get help for them. So why do you think seniors are a target?
And the answer is actually pretty straightforward. So they found a lot of what we'll call vulnerabilities on seniors. So basically, the fact that as we are getting older, we move a little bit slower. We actually tend to be less focused on some stuff that like are trending, or at least we are less familiar with things like for the newest technologies, the newest trends. So people take advantage of that, so that actually they can come and say, you know what, and there's this new thing, this new law, or this new rule from the IRS, and then you have to do this, and because you are not in touch with everything that's happening, so you tend to believe. So that's why and the number one target we know is that the number one reason why they target seniors is basically they know that they get money. So, actually, scammers, they are after mostly data and money, and money is the other end goal most of the time. So they actually know that seniors, people getting close to retirement or people already retired, they get like some savings that, and they feel like, these people, because they are vulnerable, we can go after and what they got. And because of that, they actually come with a set of tools and different techniques and strategies to actually do that. Now, we do know also that, and one of the maybe consequence of getting old, people they are getting old, they are not that immersed in society and going to multiple places, having multiple friends and moving around that much. So this level of isolation makes it also easier for the hackers to go after the seniors. So basically they say, you know what, and because by the time we're gonna at least reach to somebody else, I may be able to actually succeed with my scam. So that means the fact that people sometimes they live alone, or even if they have people around them, but they don't try to talk about what's happening all the time. Sometimes it's private. If it's finance, people try to keep the financial and data or financial information private. They don't want to actually tell everybody what's going on with them, or health. It's maybe the same. So they try to prey on that and use it as leverage to actually hack the seniors. But overall, it's basically they are after money and data, and they use whatever they can get to actually go after them.
So in the same line, like as a cybersecurity professional, how are 911 Cyber helping seniors to stay safe, to be protected?
So the idea is we actually got a philosophy, and I think it's something we are kind of promoting because we are personally, from my experience, I came from the IT side, like cloud, the servers, the machine side of information technology, and we always tend to focus on the software, on the platforms, on the tools, but not so much on the individuals. But there is a saying in cybersecurity that people, users, they are the weakest link. Now, knowing that, how come every time we are talking about solving these problems, mostly big companies, sometimes governments, they focus on, you know what, we're going to need the best tools, or we're going to need the shiny firewalls and all this stuff. I'm not saying those instruments, they are not useful. Actually, they are. But the problem is we need to make people the center of our strategy. So that's actually what we're doing at 911 Cyber. We believe that people actually, protection and people, they start with the same P. So we actually should put protection into people, basically. So how we do that, we start with preparedness. We try to prepare individuals by educating them, by raising awareness, and by actually understand the security posture. Because, I've seen countless of software, of tools, SaaS tools mostly, that can actually run a security assessment or security posture assessment of an entire company. But what you will see, they always tend to neglect the people. So that means, oh, you can have the best firewall and the best security perimeter, but if one of your employee, they get hacked either at their home or while they are traveling for business, they may actually bring it to, and they can take down your entire company. So because of that, we should focus on getting people ready and should understand also how they are vulnerable. So preparedness is the one thing we can achieve by education. So how we do that, we basically get tools that first, when we get a customer, we got like an AI to talk to them, basically to understand, so we can keep the data private, so we can understand what they got at home or in their life that makes them vulnerable. So once we understand that, we say, you know what, next thing we're gonna do is giving you a plan, because it's not only companies that need incident response plan, security policy for their environment. People actually do, because we now have multiple devices like smart TVs, smart door locks, cameras everywhere. We get like 1,000 emails and social media accounts. So because of that, we need to understand how to actually protect those things. And we don't have, most people, they don't have a manual. So if you hear from here, from there, some specific tips, you say, okay, that's good, but most of the time you forget about that. Now, if you get this somewhere, you can revisit, or you actually know that you get this information and I can get access to it anytime, that's gonna make a difference. The second P is about prevention. So we understand that no matter what we do preparing people, but we still have to be vigilant. That means to try to understand what's going on, to know about the latest threats, because the bad guys, they do have access to the same technologies and sometimes even better technologies, and they can create malware, they can create any type of hack, and they can get into any technology, any system. So because of that, we actually do monitoring of all sorts. So basically, a deepfake monitoring, reputation management. We actually make sure that people can, let's say that you went to a hospital and the hospital get hacked. You know that the hospital get hacked. Probably your data was in this data dump, so you can actually at least take actions, either because before. We know that when the big companies and the mega corporations, when they get hacked, sometimes it takes time to actually reveal or disclose the information, and that make people vulnerable. But if that means, so that's why we establish some monitoring platforms that can actually help those people to know before or ahead of time, so they can actually take actions. But we do monitor to know exactly what are the threats, so they can actually prevent them. So it's not only when this happens we're going to take actions, we monitor to prevent. And then the third one is protect. By protection, we talk about the tools. So we know that we can't absolutely solve some of those issues if we don't get like powerful tools. Let's say that you no matter how informed or vigilant a user, senior can be, they probably won't be able to defend a hack. Let's say that there is a SQL injection in a website,
Yeah,
they're accessing,
DDoS
or there is an adware on a website that is legitimate, but they hack the company. So we actually need tools, and those tools we're talking about VPNs, we're talking about firewall, antivirus software, we're talking about secure email, we're talking about secure cloud storage, we're talking about calendar. So this one is something I particularly pay attention to. It's like, you can't imagine the amount of people that are using OpenLight calendar that are like free, available, and they actually put. I do believe that after your email, your calendar is probably the thing that reveals the most stuff about you, because you get all your contacts coming there, in people you are connecting with, locations you are visiting, and stuff like that. Have you ever imagined if one of these platforms get hacked, and because it's a free platform, so you don't have anything to say? That means they're just gonna send a message. I'm really sorry about that. We got hacked. We are trying to resolve the issue, and in the meantime, change your passwords. That's basically what they're gonna say. And now, if you actually get access to tools that can actually prevent those things or protect you, that's something. So basically, we really use the best tools I think available right now with the latest technologies, so we can protect people. And finally, the prevailing part, which is actually our specialty. So we focus on being available for people when they need it the most, because it doesn't matter if you have the best tools, if you can prevent and you are prepared, you need help if you get hacked. So you need to know who to call, what to do. And the what who to call, it's not always evident, because law enforcement very busy. They are actually fighting the bad guys at the highest level. So they actually get a lot in their plate, and they may not be able to answer every single call. And that's understandable. That means we can't blame them because they get a lot. Let's say that there's a cyber attack occurring every 39 seconds. So somebody needs to investigate. We may have like an infinite number of people working for law enforcement. They wouldn't be able to actually track and follow up on all those cases. So in this case, on the private sector, we feel that there's a need for that, and we are there. So that means we are trying to help people solve this issue. That means you get hacked from your account being and you can get access to your account because somebody took over your email or your social media to run somewhere, or something even more nefarious. You're being extorted just because somebody got your pictures, or they actually do a deep fakes and they are using it against you. So we are there to help them navigate through these waters. Probably they don't know. Sometimes that requires access to law enforcement, that requires specific or specialized skill set to actually deal with the problems. So that's the philosophy we use, and that's how actually we are helping them.
That's great, Mark, and thank you for what you're doing for the seniors. And before we jump into our next slide, let's talk about like people will be able to ask you questions. So go to slido.com and enter cyber materials so you can ask questions to Mark. So now we go to our next slide, which is when and how they get hacked.
The short answer is everywhere and all the time. So that means the bad guys, they don't have like a schedule, they don't have like an agenda, and they actually, when I say everywhere, I'm not exaggerating, different platforms, multiple platforms. So of course, whenever it's digital, it's easier, but they actually use some of those old systems as well. So you will see that, of course, a lot of those scams, they are over the phone. So even if you don't use a smartphone, they actually call you over the phone and they try to get to siphon data or money. Actually, this morning I was listening to a podcast, and then somebody was explaining how there are scammers that actually convince people to send them money, cash, via mail. So basically, they ask them, they instruct them how to actually put the money in tin foil and put that inside of a book and send it via FedEx. So you imagine the level of skills that requires to actually convince those people or pressure them to actually do that. Everybody knows that, those companies, they usually don't actually transact money. That means you can't send money. But people, hackers, now when they can get access to tools like gift cards, that is the preferred choice to actually launder money. They actually get people to send them cash. So they can use every tool in the tool set, and sometimes you can't imagine the distance they will go to actually do harm. So from the smartphones, the analog phone, and all those apps we get on our phone, the games and the communication apps, and then the mail, I've seen hacks where companies or people like scammers pretending to be companies, they send mails, they send letters to adults or other people, basically saying, you know what, because it's gonna be it's Medicare enrollment time, so you're gonna actually need to fill this, put your social security and everything there, and then you're gonna get some discount, or you're gonna get you're gonna get, I don't know what sort of benefits. And then people, they actually don't know, they think that it's legitimate, or they don't actually verify, and they go and they put the data from,
They just fill it up and they
yeah,
they send it back.
we have seen that. We have seen cases
Wow.
like that, and we have actually even And here, actually, I've seen that sometimes in the streets, people in corners actually offering like free phones or free devices or free whatever in exchange of gathering data from those individuals. And of course, people they actually don't think through exactly if those people are legitimate or what. And sometimes it may be legitimate, and companies actually doing campaigns, marketing campaigns, or sweepstakes offering things. But the problem is they are everywhere. So that's why you need to remain vigilant. And it's not like they are sleeping or they are in vacation. No, actually they are always working all the time, and they get all the tools so they can reach out from any platform. So that's why people need to really pay attention and take care.
Okay, so Mark, now that we know the where, the when, the how, and why, can you tell us resources that seniors can use and they can get help and how they can protect themselves?
Absolutely. Let me tell you that there are plenty. When I say plenty, it's not like, of course, everywhere you go, you'll get a notice. But I've seen some efforts from different institutions, from a private sector, from the private sector, from the government, from and groups that actually got interest on people being secured. So I know that there are some tools. The problem is the people who need those tools the most, they don't know. Now, that's why we are having those types of platforms like 911 Cyber, or what we're doing with Cyber Material. And this show is basically trying to educate and inform people about what is available out there. Now, first of all, I would say that anybody should read the book from Brenda. Definitely, it's a great resource, and as she said, it's written in a language anybody can understand. And reading those books give you access to stories that can be similar to how they're gonna, if they didn't reach out to you yet, how they're gonna reach out to you. So when you know, it's gonna be easier to actually prevent yourself from being hacked, right? And then you got also different books and out there. Sometimes it's not very difficult to find them, and you can actually read multiple books from give me multiple perspective about the issue and some tips depending on experience or anecdotes that people have lived. And then second, you get like some interesting platforms or websites available either from the government or from institutions. I heard that Brenda mentioned the FTC. They do have like a line, or they have, so there are some tools online that people can actually use. You got like I think there is this platform. I've read this document actually from the Defense Information System Agency, which actually focuses on phishing and social engineering. And I think there are like many of those platforms. So feel free to reach out, or I think you'll get them on the Cyber Material website, where people can actually scroll down and find all these tools so they can protect themselves. And finally, I would say, and more importantly, now the last mile of this rally to protect people was people sometimes they don't have help either to know exactly when they need somebody to tell them, you know what, this is dangerous, so you shouldn't actually be doing that, or you actually should refrain from maintaining this conversation, from having this behavior. Or when they really get hacked, they are in trouble, they need somebody to help them getting out of it, because people are in panic mode and they don't know what to do, and they sometimes they tend to actually get into more trouble. So we are here at 911 Cyber to actually do help them, so either preventively or after they get hacked. But of course, we'll encourage everybody to actually join us and reach out and whenever they need, so they can actually be ready. And if something happens, they also know that we're going to be available for them.
That's wonderful. And thank you, Mark. And here we have how to reach out to 911 Cyber or reach out to Mark through LinkedIn. So, thank you again. We're going to be getting some questions from the audience. We do have some of them. Go and visit slido.com and enter cyber material to get your question ready. We have questions here. Let's see the first one. Okay, so with seniors being like particularly susceptible to phishing and scam attempts, how does prevention work to educate and shield them from such threats?
Oh, prevention is a great part of the strategy to actually eliminate some of those threats. So, when we're talking about informing people, let's say, let's just take an example. So, if you know that somebody can call you and impersonate the IRS, and you know to never provide your social security number to somebody who's calling you, now that's actually you're stopping 50% or more of the potential hack, because when the person calls you and say, you know what, I'm calling from the IRS, you need to verify your information, you say, okay, thank you so much for calling, but you know what, I'm gonna call the IRS because if there's an emergency, I know their number and I can reach out. So if you never know about this as particular behavior you should have, that's gonna be a bigger risk for you, because people will feel in panic mode and they will try to, should I comply or not? And then that's a problem. So prevention by education is absolutely necessary. Other aspect I see in the prevention part is we mentioned about monitoring. So that means, and all, of course, it's absolutely great to tell people what to do, what not to do, but we know that in some specific cases, we may not have seen this hack before, or this technique, this social engineering and tactic before. So we will know that to actually give people some basic steps that they can follow, and they also have some places they can go. For example, there is a platform that means if you have been using your email for a long time and then you want to feel to actually verify if your email has been part of a hack, you can actually verify. So it's some type of prevention. Just by knowing that, you can go ahead and change your password and or change the email entirely, so you don't use the same emails and stuff. So prevention requires not only education, but also in this case, I think a lot of tools that can be used to monitor and try to help people ahead of time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And then we do have another question here from John Sullivan. Question for Mark: how seniors can reach out to 911 Cyber if their computer is locked? That's a good question.
Actually, you can do that via multiple channels, but and basically, get a phone line, that's a hotline that people can call, and also the idea is we are making this platform available through different order AI systems. So let's say if you get an Amazon Echo, you can just say, we'll be able to say very soon, hello, Amazon Echo is
Alexa.
Alexa. Alexa, you're gonna say, Alexa, can I speak to 911 Cyberbot? And then Alexa gonna transfer you, so you'll be able to speak
To
with our
troubleshoot it.
AI and troubleshoot your issue. So there are more. We're gonna make it available almost everywhere, so people, they don't actually need to get a website to get a computer. They can do it via phone, even via SMS. So we are making it available in multiple platforms, so people can reach out and wherever they are facing the threats.
That's great. And then one last question here. Can you discuss the importance of partnerships in enhancing cybersecurity measures for seniors?
So partnerships, I think that's a good word, and we don't have it in the 5P, but it's there because actually it's almost impossible to actually solve the problem only one company or one entity. We see there is partnership between law enforcement and company, cyber companies, because sometimes we can't go on the attack, we can't go and dismantle and those bad guys, even if we locate where they're operating, their modus operandi and all the stuff. So we can actually partner with law enforcement to forward this information to them, and they may be able to take actions. And sometimes they even share information to help prevent some of those things. And there are also partnerships between entities in the private sector, like corporations, companies, and sometimes even non-profit organizations or other institutions, because by sharing information, we know about the bad guys, we know how they operate and where they are coming from, so you may be able to block some of them. So let's say that, and we actually know that there are threat intelligence platforms where you can learn about different IPs. You can restrict from accessing your network. You can block geographically some places in the world where they are like hotbeds of bad guys, of criminals. So partnerships is key, and it actually is right now we are seeing a lot of partnerships in the industry, because we understand that we can't fight alone. We have to come together. And actually, I used to say that the bad guys, they really work well together. Right now, we know there is ransomware as a service. So somebody says, you know what, I'm smart enough. I can create a script. I can create an encryption program that's gonna actually encrypt people's computer. So you know what? But I'm not very good at selling it. So let me put it in the marketplace, and somebody else gonna sell it, and they're gonna try to infect other computers, and we share the money. So the bad guys, they are working together. They are having partnerships. Now on the other side, I'm saying the good guys, it's basically people working, cyber professionals, cyber practitioners, governments, and all those institutions trying to protect people, their customers, their employees. We actually have to come together to not only share information, but share and tactics, share strategies, and share sometimes plans, and even collaborate on taking actions together to be able to actually solve part of this problem. We know it may not be solved entirely 100%, but at least we can reduce the number of cyber crimes occurring on a daily basis.
Okay, so thank you so much, Mark, for your time, for these wonderful tips, insights, and things that you are doing to help protect seniors and any other individual, of course, too. And that will be all for this show today. And let's let's see if we have another question. Otherwise, we can just wrap it up. And anything else, Mark, you would like to share with the audience?
Now, basically, recommending everybody to be informed, be vigilant, and if something happens, try to get help. Because one of the main thing is because cyber incidents are being underreported. So that means people are not saying anything. They just keep the bad things happening to them quiet. And if we don't know, it's difficult to actually help or solve the problem. So feel free to reach out.
That's great advice, to report it, always to report it, so we can keep track of them and we can see patterns and we can help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so thank you, Mark. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we very much looking forward to having you on the show again.
So thank you so much for having me.
Bye-bye. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us for another Cyber Hygiene Live. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Mark. Don't forget to subscribe to Cyber Briefing for a chance to win a Bitdefender 1-year license for the antivirus software. And visit cybermaterial.com and enter your email address. We hope you had a wonderful, and we look forward to seeing you our next event about small businesses. Be safe out there and don't hesitate to ask for help. Bye-bye.